Hi, you got it? Yes. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, sovereign individuals. Today is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And welcome to the Sovryn Community Call, episode 62. I find it amazing that we've done so many of these community calls. We've gone through a lot of developments and updates these past few years. And the year of 2024 is the year of runes, and we're finally going to take a leap into this space, and that will be the main topic for this community call. So very excited on what we have for you guys coming up, and going to bring Iago to the center of the stage to talk a little bit more on it.
Thank you very much. Who will be sharing the deck?
I don't. I asked. I'm not sure if we have one for this week.
I'm pretty sure we have one. If you can maybe ping French Victory,
Okay.
I might be able to.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe I can try. Okay. Are you guys seeing that full screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. All right. Well, welcome, Sovereigns. Let's kick this off. So today we're going to be covering a roadmap update, and we're also going to be covering some future plans around runes. So basically, it's a very future-oriented conversation, but because it's so future-oriented, I think we should take a moment to discuss what we've been developing. I'm sure you guys have noticed there's a huge amount of work being done currently on all fronts. So we have been working to deploy DEX 2.0. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've been working on the ability to bring runes. We'll discuss that as well. We had a number of SIPs. I'll cover those briefly. And we've got progress on Bitcoin OS. We have made some overall user experience improvements. And we, in addition to all of this, added in the additional work around launching a campaign around the Bob launch, the extra spice and runes launch. Time Chain Man, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. While at the same time, we're also running the POWA campaign. So there's a lot of things that we're doing all at once. And what allows us to do that is, I would say, three primary things. The first is we spent the bear market investing in taking care of technical debt and building tools that will allow us to move faster. We're now starting to see the dividends of that. So we are seeing the ability to deploy faster and to work more efficiently. At the same time, Sovryn is a very unusual project, certainly in crypto, but even just looking at any company, the people who are working on Sovryn are extremely dedicated. We've been together now for 3.5 years. The core team has remained dedicated to this project throughout that period. We have a group of people who are very familiar with the project and extremely well versed in working together, and that also improves our efficiency. And the third thing, guys, if you please mute yourselves. Lucky rare sets. So and the third thing is the fact that we are now starting to see the fruits of labor that has been going on in the background for a while now. So we've got a very, very packed period of time ahead of us. Let's cover it. So let's talk about why now is so packed, where we are, where we see Sovryn in the overall Bitcoin and crypto space, and what is the Bitcoin renaissance that we're looking to lead. So in 2021, the Taproot soft fork it was introduced into Bitcoin, and this was a Promethean moment. It was like bringing fire to people for the first time. And fire is dangerous, and people didn't know how to use it initially, but it's an extremely powerful tool. It took a long time for developers to figure out how to use Taproot, and the first big breakout success happened in early 2023, and this was ordinals, NFTs, and Bitcoin. And what ordinals proved is that when you bring a concrete use case in a way that is useful to users and really utilizes Bitcoin, you can very quickly eclipse the established mega economies on other chains, because Bitcoin very quickly eclipsed Solana, eclipsed Ethereum. The most valuable NFTs today are ordinals, and they're on Bitcoin. Part of what came out of that was also BRC20s, which was a bit of a kludge, a way to try and create fungible tokens out of non-fungible tokens. And even though it was a hacky solution, that also saw very significant success. But we have the Bitcoin halving coming up in just 3 weeks, maybe less. With the Bitcoin halving, a new token standard for Bitcoin is going to launch. And there are a lot of new Bitcoin token standards, but more and more it's looking like Runes is going to be the primary standard, at least initially. It's going to be the ERC20 for Bitcoin. And so I call this slide speedrunning Ethereum, because I think from that point on, we're going to be kickstarting a process of ecosystem building on Bitcoin, which is going to be a speed run of what we've seen on Ethereum. We're going to see tokens. Tokens are going to lead to token launches or ICOs. That's going to lead to a demand for DeFi and DAOs. And that demand for DeFi, DAOs, as well as the increasing cost of Bitcoin transactions that we're going to see, is going to create demands for scale. At the same time, it's going to make Lightning Network as a scaling solution less and less useful, because Lightning Network doesn't work in a high fee environment. And that is going to create the demand for rollups. So I have a pretty high level of confidence that what we're going to see in Bitcoin now is basically Ethereum 2016 on steroids over the next 18 months. And what we're trying to do with Sovryn is not just position ourselves for this, but continue to take a leading position in making this a reality. So that brings us to the roadmap. We put out a roadmap at the beginning of this year, and it's an extremely ambitious roadmap. So how are we doing? Well, so far, we've launched the staking rewards. 9% staking rewards in SOV was voted in last week. We initially expected to introduce the ability to bring Taproot assets to our DEX and to our basically to our entire DeFi platform, with the goal of becoming the central DeFi platform for what we call the new Bitcoin token economy. Our sense now is the Taproot assets is just way behind in terms of mind share, market share, and actually even development versus Runes. And so what we've done is we have developed both, but we've brought Runes to the point that it's production ready. And that, I think, is just a remarkable effort by the developers working on that. to develop both systems in parallel, make sure that we were ready for any outcome. Amazing work. We also introduced not just one, but 2 points programs. We announced Bitcoin OS to very significant fanfare and our first major partnership with Bob. We can expect, we think, significantly more partnerships of that kind because people have been paying attention. People have noticed that the Sovryn community has been the primary community driving Bob. It's been, we've been the most significant community. We've driven over $40 million in value, or around 40% of the value that has been driven to Bob has come from Sovryn. And that makes Sovryn an extremely attractive partner. In Q2, are we going to be able to keep the pace that we've maintained? And I can almost guarantee that we will. First of all, we expect it to go multi-chain in Q2. That is happening. So we will be launching with Bob in just a few weeks. DEX 2.0 will be launching on Bob in just a few weeks. DevNet. What is the DevNet? The DevNet is for Bitcoin OS and allowing us to introduce a DevNet for Sovryn Layer. We expect to have both of those done this quarter. So some big news on that coming down the pike. So right now, in the same way that we expect Bitcoin to be speedrunning Ethereum, we're speedrunning our roadmap. So that brings me to the second points program that we launched. There was a very high level of consensus that was ultimately achieved around moving a significant portion of the adoption fund, most of it, to Bob, and that will allow us to drive adoption. And the way it's starting to drive adoption is we've been driving funds being pre-deposited already right now into Sovryn's DEX 2.0 on Bob. This is a very big opportunity because we anticipate that Bob will be a significant player in the Ethereum Bitcoin ecosphere. And that can be a very big market, as we've explained in the past. I think we are doing a good job right now of positioning ourselves as the primary DEX on that platform. And that will allow us to be the primary DEX on 2 Bitcoin-related chains. That positions us then to become the primary DEX on the 3rd and the 4th. So what is the DEX that we're bringing? DEX 2.0. DEX 2.0 is going to represent a very significant improvement in our exchange. Not all of this will be felt immediately, but the components of what DEX 2.0 bring are extremely significant. So first, right now, our DEX basically just has simple liquidity pools, very similar to Uniswap V1.
Excuse me, yourself.
Very similar to Uniswap V1. Then, as you guys are aware, Uniswap V3 introduced concentrated liquidity. The problem with this is that while each of them have their advantages, right now with Uniswap, they are separate pools. In fact, entirely separate DEXs. With DEX 2.0, we're introducing the ability to concentrate both simple and concentrated liquidity into a single liquidity pool. This is going to allow much deeper liquidity, much lower slippage. At the same time, reducing slippage even further, we have limit orders, and these limit orders will effectively allow for the creation of a cloud of orders, a order book around our liquidity pools. We're also introducing the ability to have dynamic fees that respond to the market, that increase when there's high volatility and a lot of trade, and decrease when there's low volatility, making sure that LPs are able to benefit from changing market circumstances. We're also introducing super efficient fees. The DEX 2.0 will initially be on Bob, and so will obviously be much cheaper than, say, Ethereum mainnet or even Rootstock mainnet. But even if we were to deploy on Ethereum, DEX 2.0 would be vastly more efficient than Uniswap. transaction fees, gas fees are just going to be much simpler, much cheaper. We're also introducing trade routing, the ability to route between different assets that aren't paired to the same thing. So, for example, we could have WBTC paired to TBTC, WBTC paired to SOV, and allow people to trade through TBTC into WBTC into SOV in one single transaction. And then, as a big experiment here, we're also going to be launching with SOV as the primary or default pairing on all of these different pairs. And I'll talk in a moment about the significance of that. And then finally, we're introducing an SDK and an API, which will make it easier for market makers and institutional players to take advantage of the DEX, provide more liquidity and additional trading volume. So, DEX 2.0 comes together with runes. And this is a new beginning for Sovryn DEX. I think we've built a really fantastic DEX. But one of the challenges that we've had is we've kind of been a DEX for a chain which didn't have tokens. And there's a limited amount of trade activity that can happen when there's a limited amount of tokens. Runes is sort of like a token standard without a DEX. Sovryn is a DEX without a token standard. We're bringing these together, and we're going to be able to provide absolutely the best trading experience, certainly DEX trading experience for runes. And runes, we expect, are going to introduce a large number of new tokens that there'll be high interest in trading. And so we expect that the DEX will grow with these additional trade opportunities, and that what we'll be seeing is the growth in the runes ecosystem translate into growth for Sovryn. And tying that together is the fact that trading pairs will be paired with SOV, which effectively will mean that SOV by proxy becomes an index token for the entire Bitcoin space. If we are the central DEX for what is becoming a very wide Bitcoin ecosystem, and everything is paired in SOV, then as the Bitcoin ecosystem grows, SOV as an index token will grow with it. And finally, by being on Bob, we can start to bring in a large number of users from Ethereum who already are experienced with this kind of DEX and interface. And then finally, Bitcoin OS. We've been pretty quiet on this because there's been so many other things for us to talk about, but things are moving. There's very significant work happening, and we expect to be able to start talking about a DevNet soon, both for Bitcoin OS in general and Sovryn layer. So that's it in terms of updates from me, and I can pretty much guarantee that there's lots more to come.
Thank you, Iago. That was excellent. Do we have other updates for today?
Yeah, I'd like to cover quickly runes. Iago did most of the talking there, but I'd like to go over it quickly because I think not everybody knows what they are, and I'd like to present on where we are on this. So runes next are, like I said, the new fungible token class on Bitcoin. Think ERC20s just on Bitcoin. Next slide, please. Runes are developed by Casey, the maker of Ordinals. And like I mentioned, Ordinals became basically overnight the most valuable NFTs and the biggest marketplace for NFTs in the world. And we expect with runes will do to ERC20s what Ordinals did to Ethereum NFTs, taking away the users, taking away the liquidity, and moving the focus of attention to shiny new things, which is runes on Bitcoin. Next slide, please. So we have a bridge. It is currently in testnet, and we have a runes multisig in place for that bridge. During the next weeks and until the halving, we would prepare the code base for the new version of Ordinals. We would deploy on testnet with UI deployment, which will allow anyone to play around with the new user interface. And we would deploy on mainnet and do tests prior to RSK mainnet launch on the Halving and launch on Bob launch, which we currently expect to be on April 24th. So far, development has been going like clockwork, and we expect this to continue to be on schedule for the halving. Next slide, please. On Sovryn, you would be able to trade runes. Now, this bridge is, as far as we know, will be the first EVM to runes bridge. This means that Sovryn will be the fastest and cheapest way to trade runes. Other marketplaces, such like Magic Eden, for example, are P2P marketplaces. This means that if you have a rune that you want to buy, you want to sell, you go to the marketplace and you either see someone presenting a rune or a bunch of runes for this X amount of price. You have to click on it and decide that you want it, and then the other user also has to approve it, and yeah. It's a P2P market, and you have to wait 10 minutes for 3 confirmations on Bitcoin for this to be completed. The Sovryn trading experience would be identical to what you guys know on Sovryn right now. So an AMM, you say how much you want to buy, you just connect your wallet and you do it. You do the trade, and it's approved within seconds, essentially. And it's going to be much more affordable to trade on Sovryn than on the Bitcoin mainnet directly, Bitcoin L1 directly. We expect to be the first to market with this technology, which, and all of the above, puts us in a favorable position to be a market leader for runes trading in this run. Next slide, please. As a result, we expect to see Sov stakers to have higher yield because we will have a significant increase in trading volume. And like Jago mentioned, Sov will be paired against everything, which would increase the Sov trading volume, and with them, most likely the price as well. Last slide, please. So the first rune to be traded on Sovryn is POWA, the rune in the center of the PowerPoint program. We already know that runes will be the pair with another rune from another project that will list on Sovryn on launch, and more rune projects will list on Sovryn on launch, and our runes will list on their exchanges as well. And 2 of these projects, LFG and Runes Alpha, will be joining us tomorrow for a space on our account, Rune, the next big narrative. I hope that you guys will be there, and I hope that you guys will share with your followers, because it's a really big opportunity, not only for Sovryn, but of course for anyone coming in on the ground floor. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, French. So I think we can take some questions at this point.
I just want to say something first. As you guys have noticed, there isn't a presentation from the dev team during this community call, and the reason is, I think, pretty easy to understand. People are extremely heads down. The level of dedication and work being put forward by the core devs is just absolutely phenomenal. They are taking on, so much right now, and I think we all owe them a debt of gratitude for the amount of dedication, and resilience, and also accuracy and security that they're managing to deliver with.
I concur. So for anyone who has questions, please unmute yourself and ask away. And you also have the option of just typing in the chat your question. We'll read there as well. So First question from Bernhard JW: will dollar be made available in a Rune version?
That's absolutely the plan. Yes, we want the first stablecoin to be on the Bitcoin token standard, to be a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. Sovereign dollar is the biggest of its kind, and we're going to. There's a lot of. We've got, as you can see, a very, very packed roadmap, but certainly after we're out of Q2, I think a big focus is going to be driving additional use cases and utility for the sovereign dollar and making sure that we cement its position as the default Bitcoin stablecoin.
I have a question. So regarding making SOV the default pair, does that mean that, you know, when you're selecting your pair, when you're making a liquidity pool, that SOV is the first choice? Meaning that if you still wanted to pair your Rune with another token, maybe a stable coin, maybe Bitcoin, that is still possible, correct?
Anyone will be able in DEX 2.0 to pair any two assets. So you can pair two stable coins together, you can pair two types of Bitcoin together, you can pair two meme coins together, whatever. What we're trying to establish is that the first pools will be pulled against SOV, that there'll be deep liquidity for SOV against stablecoins, deep liquidity for SOV against ETH, deep liquidity for SOV against Bitcoin, such that most trade crosses. So for example, I'm going from coin X to coin Y, I'm likely to pass through SOV. And that if I, as a result, pair my asset against SOV, routing will be shorter, fees will be lower, transactions will be more efficient, and there will be good reason to want to launch tokens on Sovryn paired against SOV.
We have a question from Tom in Discord. What is your vision about governance on multiple chains, starting with Bob?
I think that's a really great question, and it's a topic which a lot of people have been discussing. I think with good reason. It's a topical discussion. We've discussed this in a number of different forums, but I think it's I'll try to summarize sort of the objective reality and then my view. The objective reality is that when you have bridged governance, you introduce a large number of risk factors, and you effectively compromise both the decentralization and the security of the system as a whole. On the other hand, it is also the case that we would like to maintain a unified governance, or at least have a hierarchy of governance that sort of all leads back to the same highest autocracy. How do you do that in an environment of not without trustless bridging? And the simple fact of the matter is that you can't. You can't do trustless bridged governance. Now, we've discussed in the past how potentially with Bitcoin OS, there would be opportunity to do trustless bridge governance across multiple different rollups. But doing it between Rootstock and Bob and potentially other chains that launch is not possible. So there's a question of how the different implementations of Sovryn on different chains should be governed. No decision has been made on this, and it's going to, I think, be a topic of discussion for a while before we make, as a community, a decision. Right now, with Bob, we're launching in the same way that we launched Sovryn on Rootstock, which is we have multi-sig governance, which will adhere to and be subservient to Bitocracy, but is not an instance of code is law. And so to the extent that any profits are made on Bob, those will be directed to a multi-sig, and changes to the protocol upgrades will be done and performed by the multi-sig as well. And then we will need to make a decision, both how we want to deal with revenue across multiple different chains, how we want to deal with governance across multiple different chains, and these are related questions. I think it's beyond the scope probably of this conversation, although if other people ask about it, we can go into, into the details of it. But that's basically sort of the dilemma that lies ahead of us, and we'll need to decide how to deal with.
Cool. So another question from Tom: are you open to having a single point of governance regarding SOV? I guess kind of a follow-up.
I think I gave my answer to that. We're certainly open to it. Is it practical, and what trade-offs are involved? That's the conversation.
Question for Christian: do we need a separate wallet like the ordinal wallets? Yeah.
To be able to hold runes directly on Bitcoin main chain, you'll need a runes wallet of some kind. But the wallet that you're currently using on Rootstock with Sovryn, that will work on Bob, and you'll be able to use your runes on either of those chains with whichever wallet you're currently using.
Question from JS: will DLLR be available as a rune day one or at some later point?
TBD. There's a lot going on, lots of moving parts. We will do as much as we can safely, and no more.
When can we expect perpetuals on Sovryn on Bob? This is from Rafid.
Thanks for the question, Rafid. Right now, they're not even on the roadmap. I think we want to see how Bob the chain does. We want to see how Sovryn on Bob does. We want to make sure that we have successfully deployed, built a user base, and managed to build out and ultimately dominate the market that we're looking to dominate with the dApps that we're currently launching with before we look to expand further. It's definitely something we're thinking about. People are discussing it, but we want to methodically get the things that we're doing now right, and then build on that. If we build a successful DEX, introducing perpetual on the basis of that success will be a much preferable strategy to trying to do everything at once now and maybe fumbling the ball.
Jimmy Shaker had a question. I think it was skipped.
It was already asked. I brought it up. Question from Lactarius says, if I'm not mistaken, other dexes might be coming to Bob. How are we going to differentiate ourselves? I think a lot of that is answered in what we presented today with the
Let me give a short answer to that. One, we think the DEX technology itself has very significant advantages. DEX 2.0 will be faster, easier, deeper liquidity, lower cost transactions, many other advantages. Two, we're building up a brand on Bob now. Pretty much everyone who is involved in Bob or depositing in Bob knows about Sovryn. If you go to Bob's leaderboard, Sovryn's at the top. If you go to the Bob website, Sovryn's offering the biggest bonus. If you're looking at tweets, Bob is tweeting about Sovryn, Sovryn's tweeting about Bob. And tonight we're going to be in one of a series of interviews or spaces that we're doing with Bob. So we're making sure that the Bob community are aware of Sovryn and that the Sovryn brand is strong on Bob. Third, we're going to be coming out of the gate, we expect, with the deepest liquidity and the strongest rewards. And that's partially why we introduced, we shifted the Sovryn adoption SOV into the time lock. It's allowing us to accrue rewards, which we can then offer as additional bonuses. So be better known, and offer more bonuses. That is our strategy. Actually, one last thing. We want to have I think this is probably the most important thing, which is what I should have pointed out. And we pointed out in the call. For any DEX to succeed, it needs to be able to differentiate itself. Why does Bob even have a reason to exist? It needs to be able to offer something unique, something that you get in the Bitcoin corner of Ethereum, none other places. We think that's going to be runes, and our goal is to dominate runes trading.
Chain man says, as a data governance specialist in finance over the last decade, I might be able to lend a hand with how to framework governance in a federated system. Would you guys be needing this skill set? Otherwise, I will drop it for now and wait.
Definitely. Just jump in.
Okay, thank you very much. You said you wanted to didn't want to do the deep dive here, so my question would then be, where can we do that?
Who's speaking?
I'm Chan Man.
Time chain.
I think the best place for this kind of deeper conversation is probably the forum.sovryn.com.
Okay.
And we can have a deeper conversation there.
No worries, then I will set up a thread for that.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Time Chain Man.
It's not often that someone on this call has a thicker South African accent than me.
Do we have any more questions from our sovereign individuals? Oh, Capitalist42 asks, how safe is the Runes Bridge?
Good question, Capitalist42. Use at your own risk. That said, the team that have put together the Runes Bridge are the same team that put together our Ethereum Bridge, our BSC Bridge, and the same team that put together FastBTC. All of them have worked without incident for 3+ years now. So we hope to continue that streak.
I have a couple questions. This is Travis.
Go for it, Travis.
Hey, so sorry, I wrote them down in the general. So I had a couple questions. One, is this rune token as part of the Bob campaign something from Bob or Sovryn? And is this the POWA token or something different?
The way we're currently thinking about it, basically, if you look at what's happening on all of the different chains, Solana and Base and Stacks and whatever. Guys, please mute yourselves. There's currently this trend of creating meme tokens and having each chain sort of have its own, mascot in the form of a meme community. We view POWA as the meme mascot of Rootstock, and there will be a different token, which will be the meme mascot of Bob. And what we would like to try and do is provide additional tools and see the community fill those memes with the values and the sort of principles or meaning that each of those chains have. Rootstock has a different approach to Bitcoin than Bob, and so they should have different flavors. But basically, what we would like to do, just as we're going to try and dominate the trading in each of these environments, we also want to be the ones putting out the meme token for each of these environments.
Okay, so is that this rune rewards? Is this something incentivized by the Sovryn community, or is this Bob?
This is not being provided by Bob. Bob will eventually introduce their own token, which will be sort of like, I suspect, right? They haven't said anything, but I suspect they'll introduce a governance token for the Bob chain. This is a token that Sovryn is developing.
Great, thank you. And then the other question I had about that was I was reading through the forum, and with this new proposal of sending Sov over to earn a portion of the spice tokens from Bob, and speculating that it's the Bob token, did you guys have any ideas or thoughts about how this would change the LP rewards for Sovryn? Like how we'd go about using that potentially, or did you guys have any thoughts on that?
That is the primary goal. The primary goal is to incentivize LP on Bob with spice points. So you'll deposit funds, you'll act as an LP on the Sovryn DEX, and you'll earn spice points.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, friends.
Kranik
question?
has. Yeah, sorry, I just want to get to a question that Kranik asked because I've seen other people ask it as well. Kranik asks, will rootstock SOV stakers benefit from DEX 2.0 on Bob? I think we're already benefiting. Everyone who holds SOV, anyone who's staking SOV is benefiting. The people who are staking are benefiting even more. We've seen since the announcement of the Bob campaign, a more than 30% rise in the value of SOV tokens. Those are currently being distributed to SOV stakers. There's a very clear direct benefit. There are also indirect benefits: the overall growth of Sovryn, the overall growth of the Sovryn brand. Now, there's a question of revenue distribution that we addressed earlier in this call. As yet, there is no concrete plan around shared revenue distribution, nor is there any guarantee that there ever will be. And I think that in either case, the benefit is very there's very significant benefit for SOV stakers to seeing Sovryn grow, more users becoming aware of Sovryn, more value being driven towards Sovryn. And again, I'll point out the people who are benefiting most are SOV stakers. SOV stakers are currently earning SOV on top of the earnings from the protocol. This is a very clear and direct benefit. French, you said that there was an additional question?
There's a couple more questions popping up. We have one from Rafid. Any development on exporting Sovryn dollar to other chains that are not Bob?
Yeah, Rafid actually went further and he said this was something we discussed 5 months ago. And Rafid has a good point. We did discuss it 5 months ago, and we actually we wanted to begin the export of Sovryn dollar to other chains. Why didn't we? We have a very significant problem on rootstock. And the problem is that they're not good bridges. Sovryn has built a bridge. Sovryn does not want to particularly be maintaining that bridge. It is a cost center and a risk center. And we are using it because we have no choice. But we were promised by IOV Labs multiple different specialized bridges would be deployed. None of this has happened. And so that has curtailed our ability to be able to import or export all assets, and specifically stablecoins.
On
We have a
YouTube,
question.
Henrique asks, "What are rune points?" Henrique, rune points are part of the Sovryn Runes and Extra Spice Points program done with collaboration with Bob. So in this program, Spice points are the points that Bob gives, and if you go through Sovryn to deposit, you would get a bonus, a 50% bonus at least on your Spice points. And rune points are additional points that we give out in this program, and these points will be redeemable for a new rune token that will launch on Sovryn. Perhaps it's worth mentioning that funds unlock after 3 weeks.
Question from Capitalist42. Are the team still buying SOV in open market with deposited funds from the Spicy program?
So the wording there is a little bit ambiguous. Let me clarify something. The team are buying no SOV with the team does not buy SOV unless they want to do it on their own personal time. What is happening is that the exchequer is purchasing SOV on the market to pair with funds that are being deposited into the multi-sig for the Bob campaign. This is not being done from treasury funds, it's being done from funds being deposited by future LPs. That is still going on. It's not extremely significant. It's relatively small amounts right now, I think. But yes, that is continuing and will continue probably until Bob launches.
Question from Kingpin. Why are we not doing community calls on Spaces instead of Discord? It will get much more exposure than Discord.
I don't have a good answer to that. We've considered it a few times, but never deeply. Mostly it's just a legacy of doing it here. People know to come here. And these are supposed to be community calls where the community comes and asks questions. I'm not sure the format of Spaces, which is sort of an open forum, is necessarily the best for that, but maybe we should experiment with it, and we can certainly consider trying it for the May community call.
And for what it's worth, we still do some, other community calls on Twitter Spaces for specific topics, like the one that we have tomorrow.
I mean, one of the big challenges with Spaces is that we can't do a presentation. We try to have a presentation on a monthly basis. There might be a workaround where we sort of do a live stream and then we convert it to a Spaces. It's a bit awkward. I think we'll give it some thought, but it's a nice suggestion. Thank you. Kaizen is asking if he deposits SOV, not through Sovryn, but through some other means, will he earn the 75% bonus? The answer is you can deposit however you want, but you have to use the Sovryn referral code. And the referral code you can find on gobob.sovryn.app. There's a link, you just click it and you'll get the referral code. But if you don't use the referral code, we can't track you and there's no way to give you the bonus.
More questions cooking from Lucky Rare Sats and Eisen.
Lucky Rare Sets is asking, will the SOV supply ever be changed more than the current 100 million? I think it's possible, but it would mean that the entire community would have to come together to make the change. And the change could work in both directions. Could be a reduction, it could be an increase. Right now, there's no conversation around this even. It would require a governance level vote with a higher threshold. So that would mean that you would need to see at least 20% quorum and would need to see at least 70% in favor. So I think it's, unless there's a very good reason where it would be very clear that this would be value accretive, it would increase value for SOV stakers and value of SOV, I don't think it will ever happen. All right, maybe we have time for one more question.
We have Lactarius saying regarding the buying SOV question, he says, I haven't quite understood. Are these SOVs meant to cover the purchase of 50% of SOV from liquidity providers on launch day?
That is exactly right. That's exactly what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so yeah, let's maybe answer one final question and then we can wrap up this month's community call. Feel free to unmute. Okay, well, it looks like we have covered just about all the questions for today. So would like to close out the recorded part of the community call, episode 62. Thank you all for joining. I'm Chain Man, looking forward to your forum post if you haven't posted already. So keep spreading Sovryn, keep being badasses, and thank you all. Show up to our Twitter Spaces tomorrow. French, what time is that going to take place?
11 a.m. Eastern
11.
coast of the United States.
Okay, 11 a.m. New York time. Check out our Twitter Spaces, or 3 p.m. UTC time, if that reference works for you. So thank you all, and stay sovereign.
Stay sovereign.